Hey everybody, hope you guys are doing great today. My name is Sean Conti. You can call me Sean or Dr. Conti or Professor Conti, whatever you feel most comfortable with. I really don't mind either one. I just wanted to introduce myself a little bit more and also introduce you to the class a little bit, the logistics and a bit of the content, though the content you'll see more in the week one video. The idea for the class is that we're going to be dealing with a lot of difficult problems and we're going to try to build skills for how to deal with those problems. Before I get into that though, let me just give you a little bit about my background. I'm a super interdisciplinary person. I've always been interested in multiple avenues. I started in community college back in Orlando, Florida, before moving to Durango, Colorado, getting my bachelor's in philosophy and mathematics, along with a minor in economics. And then I continued that interdisciplinary research in my PhD, where I got a philosophy PhD with an interdisciplinary coursework track on logic and decision theory, and that included a lot of math, economics, psychology, and computer science. So I say all this because I'm really interested in a lot of different problems and a lot of different ways of approaching things, a lot of different ways of thinking about things. And I want you to know that whatever you're interested in, I'm probably interested in that thing too, and I probably also read it in my free time. And I want you to feel comfortable bringing these things up as we get into the course. We're going to be dealing with a lot of difficult issues, and a lot of things are going to require not just different experiences and awarenesses of sorts of things, but also different ways of thinking about it, ways of like approaching thinking itself and formulating our judgments about these sorts of things. Okay, so just a brief taste of some of the course itself. I won't be reading through this entire syllabus because you're all adults and you can do this and you should be doing this yourself. And of course, I will say there is a syllabus quiz in D2L. If you don't start that, that's a pretty big red flag that you're not starting off on the right foot. I don't know why you would leave points on the table like that. But yeah, we'll talk about that. So in this course, we'll be delving into core issues about values, values, rules, how we should live life, when, if ever, are sacrifices permissible or even mandatory? What sorts of moral consideration do people, animals, environments deserve? Is there a true objective morality? Or is it all subjective and relative to culture? What constraints should there be on speech, capital punishment, abortion, euthanasia, AI, or immigration, just to name a few? So in this class, we're going to be learning about a lot of major approaches to these questions, but more importantly, we will develop the skills to analyze and evaluate these approaches. So the point is, we're going to be looking at a lot of different theories, right? One might say, forget intentions, results are all that matter. Another is going to say, intentions are all that matter, follow the rules, and who cares where that leads you? Who cares what the results are, right? And we're going to not only try to understand what are those theories, but more importantly, we want to understand, how do I evaluate them? How do I decide this is the right way to say, or this is the right way to go, this is the wrong way to go? How do I evaluate whether or not there is an objectivity, or if it is all subjective? I'm sure plenty of us have a lot of strong beliefs about it, but how do we actually know whether or not these beliefs are well-founded? Like, what is that even about? That's what philosophy is all about, trying to actually provide rigorous justification for these thoughts, right? We're extremely rigorous in all other places like epidemiology or physics or wherever, mathematics, and philosophers do the same thing with your ethical judgments, right? Sure, you feel this way about having a minimum wage at this sort of level. Why, right? What sort of justification, right? How can we actually establish that on any firm ground, or is there no such thing? Okay, so that's the sort of thing we're going to be interested in. And as such, we're going to be getting into some very difficult, tough concepts, some things that you very well might not feel excited about or comfortable with, hopefully most of which you feel very excited about, if you know, even excited about the level of right newness about it. But the point is, whatever we're going through, I want you to always feel comfortable reaching out to me about what's going on, right? If you're just confused about something, you're concerned about something, you're not sure how this fits in with with other ways you think about things, right? All of this is supposed to just provide you with more tools for analyzing things, right? I don't want you to ever feel like you're just being stranded or certainly not pushed in any certain way. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at a lot of competing theories. Each individual philosopher might be trying to push you, And what I'm going to be trying to do is showing you the variety of options and helping you build the tools and skills to decide between those options. But I will never try to push you in any certain direction. Okay, the number one tip for succeeding in this class is engagement. This is an easy class to pass. I'll say that right now. It is also, simultaneously, an easy class to fail. Okay? And the question is just, are you able and willing to put in the time and effort to actually stay up to date on the readings, on the D2L quizzes, on the discussion boards, and finally your final paper, right? If you, and the videos as well. If you can do this, which, by the way, these aren't like ridiculous hurdles to overcome, then you are fine. Like every semester I have people get to the end, right? And and they might not have thought that they could have achieved some sort of grade, or they were really in doubt, but like if they just put the work in, then they do so. I have never had someone get to the end of the semester engaging throughout and fail. That's literally just never happened. The only people that have failed, you can always point back to a point in the calendar where they just stopped coming or stopped engaging. So it's super important when things come up, right, when you get confused or you just fall behind on a deadline or life happens, right, your partner gets sick, something happens, you reach out. You let me know, right? You stay in touch. But if like weeks go by and you haven't stayed in touch, then you're making it harder and harder and harder and potentially impossible to actually come back. Okay, so that's all just to say, stay on top of it. Stay in touch. When you feel yourself not being on top of it, that's okay, so long as you're actually trying to be active about it, right? But passivity will not lead to success. Okay. You all know how to read these sorts of details. The one thing I'll point out is, yes, we do also observe spring break in an online class. Some professors schedule things over spring break. I do not care for that move. I think it's important for you to have mental breaks between your coursework. All right. A bit more on just what to expect from this course. So philosopher and especially physicist, so Sean Carroll is jointly appointed in both the philosophy and the physics department at Johns Hopkins, but he is preeminently a physicist, right? So he is one of the top physicists in the world, and because of his research interests, he's also been cross-appointed as a philosopher, but he's primarily a physicist, and I say that because of one of the things he likes to talk about with ethics in particular. And that's that he likes to point out that physics is way easier than ethics, right? Ethics is about the simplest things in the universe. Literally. That's the whole point, is we're trying to get things down to the most clean and crystal clear way of formulating absolutely everything, so that you give me a problem, and I can just crank the wheel and I'll tell you exactly what the solution is. But humans and the societies they build are the most complicated systems in the universe. It's not the smallest, most simple, right, building blocks. It's the most complicated way of arranging those building blocks. So trying to like defend or pursue any sort of ethical theory, if you thought building a theory of physics was hard, given how simple physics is at the end of the day, building a theory of ethics is going to be extremely hard. It's going to involve many more variables, many more nuances than physics could ever hope to be thinking about. And again, I'm saying this as someone who absolutely loves physics. I read physics in my free time. And obviously Sean Carroll is more a physicist than he is a philosopher, and certainly more a philosopher of physics than he is an ethicist. Okay, so the idea is we're going to be exploring these really big questions of ethics, right? We're going to be exploring these questions about, like, right, is there an objective morality? What is that objective morality about? What are rules? What are rights? What are duties? Are these all fictions, or are these all just fairy tale things, or is there something significant to it? To do this, we're going to use Russ Schaefer Landau's Living Ethics books. Any edition works just fine. We'll also be using Personify AI, and the point of this is just to give us a place where, so it's essentially just a Google Doc that I already have access to, so I can follow along with your progress. It also has AI assistance integrated within it. One thing that I really want to do in this course is work on how we can use AI to better our education. I know many, essentially every philosopher is concerned with how AI can undermine our education. And I would assume that many, or I hope all of you, are concerned about the same thing. But just like Wikipedia could undermine your education, or a super smart tutor could undermine your education by doing things for you in the same way, they could also benefit it. And so what I want to do with you is figure out how can we actually use AI in the beneficial ways that don't just, right, do things for you and leave you just like without any sort of actual learning or growth, and you won't actually have gotten anything out of this. And how are you actually supposed to become a smarter person, a more capable person, a more clever, right, productive, resourceful, intuitive, insightful, right, critical, analytical, rigorous, whatever person? All right, now for a bit more of the logistics of the course. So you'll see that the course is broken up into 3 sections, or 3 major units. Basically, the units themselves are broken up into the individual weeks. Each week we have a new topic. So what you want to do is 4 things each week. You want to read that chapter, watch the video, post in the discussion, and take the quiz. I stopped putting my fingers up. Right? So read chapter, watch video, post in the discussion, and take the quiz. All right. These are really not that bad, to be clear. The chapters are pretty accessible. These are like 5 to 8 pages, I think, on average. Maybe that's even on the longer end, actually, if I'm going to be honest. And that's compared to like 20, 30 page papers that you would be reading in a regular 2,000-3,000 level philosophy class. So these are very accessible, short chapters. There are essays at the end of the chapters for more primary sources if you want to read the philosophers themselves that have kind of started or written significant things concerning these topics. But the point is, you just read those 5 or so pages, you watch the video, and then you'll post in the discussion. And the discussions end at the end of the week, right? If you miss that discussion, there's no way for you to go back to the discussion later, right? If you've ever gone to a forum that's long dead, like it doesn't make any sense that you just post a comment in replying to somebody, right? Like this isn't performance art. I'm not looking for you just to like pretend you're talking to somebody. The point is that you actually talk with people. Also, right, I'm not looking for anything ridiculously philosophically deep in these discussions. These are really opportunities for you just to discuss as humans the topic. It's a little, I get like secondhand embarrassment when somebody like tries to generate a response that's AI, because it's like, are you really so insecure with your own human responses? Like, we're not looking for anything crazy here. We're just looking for you to be able to say, I didn't like that, or this didn't make sense because yada, yada, yada. So anyway, these are very much easy, lightweight, low-stress discussions. Just continue to be a human while you talk about these topics. Don't embarrass yourself with any AI-generated nonsense. Okay. The quizzes, unlike the discussions, are not due at the end of the week, but at the end of the unit. And that's meant just to give you a little bit more flexibility. Sometimes you're going to have weeks that are just more tight because of life or classes or whatever, right? Work just got more intense or what have you. So for that reason, I give you till the end of the unit itself to complete the quizzes. So our first, what is morality, moral reasoning, moral skepticism, and the good life quiz, all of these are due on the 2nd of March. Okay. So now I'll warn you, though, that you shouldn't wait until the 2nd of March to do them, right? If I get an email on that day saying, hey, I missed all of these quizzes, can you extend it? There's a really, really good chance you won't get an extension, right? It'd have to be a very, this isn't about like how good of an excuse. It's just, generally speaking, that just doesn't happen. And so you shouldn't be thinking about that. And similarly, don't assume that if you just wait till the end of the semester that you'll be able to recap like the course. If you, at the point where you've fallen behind for like 3, 4, or 5 weeks, that's the point where you should be discussing with me and your advisor like that you should probably not be taking the course any longer. But If you've fallen behind for a couple weeks, still definitely reach out. Well, obviously, reach out either way. You need to reach out to figure out, should you save your GPA and drop the course, or how can we get you back on track? But either way, the only solution is to reach out. Okay. Anyway, so you'll see, right, every week we have a new topic. So that means reading a new thing, watching the new video, doing the new discussion, taking the quiz. The quizzes are straightforward. They're multiple choice. You have multiple attempts on them. That means, right, you can go back to the notes, go back to me, go back to the video, go back to your reading, and figure out what's the right answer, right? Just literally ask me, I thought it was this. Could you explain why it's not? Right? So there's really no reason why you shouldn't get a great score on your quizzes at the end of the day, just like your discussion. If you're just, like, just means being a human is going to get you good discussion points, and your quizzes are going to be just by being engaged and following along with the material. In the second half of the class is when we'll start up with our final paper, so you don't have to worry about the Personify AI stuff until then. Just set that to the side for now. But in the second half of the class, we'll do, instead of our normal discussions, we'll swap those out for some peer review sessions. And with that, by the end of it, you should feel very confident with how your paper is by the time you're submitting it to me. I've had really good experiences so far with how the papers are turning out. They definitely have been much better. The classes where I do this are produce much better papers than the classes where I don't do this, and that's because, well, it's simple. You guys have a lot of strengths and weaknesses, and they're different from person to person. So your strengths can benefit another person who has those as weaknesses, and you have weaknesses that you can benefit from someone else who has strengths in that area. So helping each other out, actually talking about these things, has actually been really useful, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do that with you guys. Okay, and that's the class. Your course breakdown in terms of grades is just 10%, the easiest letter grade you'll ever earn for just doing that human proof assignment, 30% for the discussion boards, 30% for those quizzes, and 30% for that final paper. So notice none of this should really cause you any significant stress. This, again, easiest thing for a letter grade you could ever do. Participation, you're literally just continuing to be a human. Quizzes, you're just continuing to keep up to date with the readings, and you have multiple attempts. And for the final paper, you essentially have multiple attempts there, or at least something like it, in that you have multiple peer reviews. So you can come in, here are my ideas. Oh, those ones are great. These ones aren't so great. Oh, let me try this new stuff. And by the end of it, you should feel really great. So again, this is an easy class to pass. The question is just, do you have the willingness and ability, and when I say ability, like I'm talking about is work completely claiming your life? Do you have the availability to actually do this stuff, right? If you're so preoccupied that you just don't have any time for anything, well then, I don't know any class that would be right. But so long as you have the time and you're willing to put in the energy, this class is easy to pass. All right, that's the course. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any other questions. I'm really excited about getting into this stuff with you. I think these are some of the most interesting questions out there. I think we're going to get into a lot of really cool things about just trying to even figure out, high level stuff about the nature of morality, but also practical stuff about what are you here for? Not in school, but also just in life, right? What's the end goal of it all? Is it all for happiness? Is that just hedonism? Well, yes, but is hedonism wrong? Right? That's going to be some of the stuff we'll get into the good life. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just excited to talk to you guys about all this stuff. Anyway, reach out if you have any questions at all. I'm excited to get into the semester with you, and I will see you next time.